You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we cover California. So, Lauren?
Yes, Kenzie?
Let's get scary.
Hi.
Woo!
You took a deep breath to get ready for that one.
I did. I started practicing it in my head.
Oh my gosh. I do the same thing. Any conversation I have to have, I practice it like 900 times before the conversation happens, and then it never goes the way that I planned it in my head. It always usually goes a lot nicer, but...
Yeah. Absolutely.
Also, I want to give a quick just thank you to everyone who's messaged us with such nice things that they're saying. We love it.
Makes our hearts happy.
It does. I still I'll take a screenshot of it and I'll send it to Mackenzie and I'm like, oh my God. Or I'll tell her about it when we see each other and then we freak out about it and we get really, really excited that people are messaging us. So thank you so, so much for everyone who's messaged us and just, said they like the show and that they enjoy listening. It's such an amazing thing to read.
We love the love.
We do love the love.
Everyone needs a little love.
All you need is love. Isn't that a song?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It goes that way?
Beatles, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I used to be able to play I Want to Hold Your Hand on the guitar.
Wow.
In what was it, middle school?
Oh, I remember that. Everyone took guitar.
Well, yeah, because we all thought we were going to be really cool taking guitar.
Pluck, pluck, pluck.
Oh, yeah. Do. Yeah.
I could do the first part of Smoke on the Water.
Wow. I feel like that's also the first thing everyone learns.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, even on Guitar Hero, it's one of the songs in the first level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everyone felt so cool. Like, do you know what I can play?
God, it's cool when people can play guitar.
Yeah.
But it's fucking badass when girls can play guitar.
I think so too.
You just don't see it all that often.
Or when girls are drummers.
Oh my gosh.
That's my favorite.
Was I with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one drummer, her hair was so long.
And she was flinging it all over the place.
Everywhere. My neck hurt just looking at her, but I was like, that is so cool.
It was amazing.
And I was like, it's also amazing that you can have that long hair, flipping it around and still manage to play the drums.
Mine, with my hair, would get caught in the drumstick and fling it across the stage or something.
Oh yeah, I would make myself dizzy. I'm doing that. So.
And then we're too old that the next day we'd just be super stationary because our necks couldn't move anymore.
We're gonna have to be careful at Blue Ridge because
we're gonna have to be so careful at Blue Ridge.
We gotta jump more than not our heads.
I will say I did jump a lot.
Yeah.
And my neck didn't hurt at all.
My knees are gonna fucking die.
Yeah. But we'll be prepared. Just wear comfy shoes.
Oh, that has nothing to do with it.
I know. You're just broken.
I am.
It's going to be great.
I'm really excited.
I am too.
Mine is camping.
We're going to be stinky.
So stinky.
Oh my God. It's going to be so bad. I don't even like going more than a day without a shower.
I barely like doing that.
So it's going to be, because when you can start to smell yourself and you're like, oh my God, I smell so bad.
The last time I went, my last camping experience was when I went to that sleepaway camp.
Oh.
I didn't shower for a week.
Ew.
Yeah.
Wait, move your water bottle so I can see you better.
Oh, you went to see my beautiful face?
I do want to see your beautiful face.
Yeah, I hadn't showered for a week, and when I got home, I took a 45-minute shower.
That is exactly what we will be doing. I'll probably take 2 or 3 showers when we get home.
It's like the shower after Warped Tour.
Yes. Oh, just the best shower.
Cleanse.
You just feel so clean.
Yes.
Oh.
It's going to be great.
That's what we'll be thinking about the whole time. In 2 days I can shower. Because I don't know. If you've been to Blue Ridge, let us know.
We're just going to be a mass of stinky people that our noses are just going to...
You're going to be nose blind to it.
Yeah.
We talked to these people after the concert and they had camped and they were like, oh my God. She was like, on day 3, I started to smell myself. And she was like, I smelled so bad. And I was like, oh, good.
Because you're sweaty.
Right. Because you're outside the whole time.
We're going to have to bring those fans so that we can be walking around with them because you know that as soon as my forehead starts to get sweaty, my bangs get all fucked up.
Oh my God.
I was
disaster.
I was I'm like, okay, should I just grow my bangs out for a little bit so that when it gets time for this, then I can pin them back easier and it won't look stupid?
Nah.
No.
Did you see that text I sent you?
Yes, I fell asleep very early that day.
That's okay.
I was with a toddler.
Yeah.
They're exhausting. So we were hoping that he would fall asleep in the car when we were driving back, but he didn't. And he was just wide awake. And I was like, why are you awake? I'm so tired. How are you still awake?
Right. Yeah. It's how when you reply to me, I'll text you immediately. And the next thing you know, I'm texting you in the morning.
Yes.
because I'll reply and then I'll put my phone down and then out.
Usually, like, by the time it hits, like, 8:45,
Yeah.
I typically don't expect a response.
Yeah, because I try to put my phone down at that point, and then Joe and I will, like, watch TV or something to fall asleep, and then I fall asleep. And then I know if I, like, look at my phone, I'll get dragged into a conversation. Yeah.
Fair. Yeah, so I went to bed really early. So, but yeah,
You know.
I got some toddler loving this weekend.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, love him. And I was just like, oh my God, what if this makes me want to have kids?
Did it?
No. It just solidified and confirmed I do not
don't
want to have
want
children.
kids.
I'm very much excited though for the rest of my friends to have kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you remember that video like during like height 2020, and it was this guy who he was like being interviewed on the news, and he was in his home office, and his like kids walked in and his wife. So I'm on the phone with the car people in my room, and he keeps walking in and like looking at me, and then like Brooke and Jelani will like run in and grab him and run. I had to like keep from cracking up because I just pictured that video, and like I can see them out of the corner of my eye, like running in and grabbing.
That's adorable.
So anyway,
do we want to jump into California?
Let's jump into California.
All right. So humans settled in California as early as 19,000 years ago.
Damn.
I know. We don't think of the U.S. being this old, but I guess it wasn't technically the U.S. at that point.
I didn't think humans were that old. 19,000?
That's what this website said.
I don't know. For some, I probably have it not long enough. No, you're right. Because I think it's 100,000.
Yeah. You're going to the National Museum place tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll look it up tomorrow.
Let us know.
And let you know.
California used to be the grizzly bear state. That is why there's a grizzly bear on their flag, whose name is actually Monarch. So Monarch the grizzly bear. But they soon went extinct here due to hunting, so it became known as the Golden State.
Damn.
I know.
That's
sad.
Not good.
California is the only state to have hosted both the Winter and Summer Olympics.
I mean,
it's big enough to do that. Yeah.
It's so big. You could literally go from the mountains to the desert to a forest all in one state.
Right.
And the beach.
Yeah.
You literally have every biome right in California.
Perfect. They also experience over 100,000 earthquakes a year. The deadliest earthquake hit on April 18th, 1906. It resulted in 3,000 deaths and over $500 million in property damages.
And for then, too.
Right. The big one's coming. I know it's coming.
The big one.
Mm-hmm.
Like a rubber band.
California has multiple gravity hills. Those are the ones where you are at the bottom of the hill and it looks like you're going up if your car's in neutral. I've talked about so many of these.
I know. And every time you do, I imagine Princess Diaries.
Oh.
When she's trying to get her car up the hill to get to the
I cannot help you at all. It's been years since I've seen those movies.
Well, she has her really nice blue Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
Finally gets it to work. Not sure if she wants to be a princess or not. Finally decides, okay, I'm going to be a princess. Goes out in the pouring rain. Can't get the hood up. So she has to try to go. And she's like, why me? Because it wasn't working. And she's trying to get this car up, the San Francisco hills.
Yeah.
Not working. And then the Joe guy, like a
Knight in
chariot.
shining armor.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
More movies, conveniently, have been filmed in California than anywhere else in the world.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Hold on. Because this is funny. I'm so glad I remembered to tell you this. So we're learning about capacity and volume and pints, cups, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so my kids are having a really hard time understanding that when I say there are 4 quarts in a gallon, that means that if you filled up a quart 4 times, you could fit it all into a gallon.
Uh-huh.
And so as I'm trying to, I have real gallons and I'm putting water in everything. I don't mean physically the cup is inside. I mean
the water from this one.
But as I'm doing it, it made me think of so if you were to take all of these cups, you could fit them all in this container.
What that means is. Oh, jeez.
Funny.
I have one of those, so don't you worry.
Yes.
So, Hyperion, a redwood tree, holds a Guinness World Record. As of 2017, it measured at 380 feet and 1 inch tall, which is about 115 meters.
Wow.
That's big.
This big.
Speaking of trees, in the
Sequoia.
Sequoia National Park lives General Sherman, one of the largest trees in the world. It stands at about 275 feet, which is 83 meters, and has a circumference of 102 feet, which is 31 meters, and it is estimated to be 2,200 years old.
Wow.
I know.
That's really cool.
If you could like come back as something, would you ever want to come back as a tree? Like that doesn't get cut down, like one that lives for like years. I feel like you get to see a lot of cool stuff.
If I'm going to come back as anything, I'm going to come back as something that requires the least amount of thinking. And so I've decided I want to come back as a golden retriever that is owned by a rich family.
Okay.
So really any family that's rich and wants to take me in.
Even now, I'm
yeah,
good.
like even now, before I'm the dog. Think about it.
As a human.
You could invest in me and my ability to reincarnate.
Unless it happens after they die. You get passed down in the will.
Right, yeah. Like I'm a family treasure.
Yeah.
You know, and I come back as this dog and then, you know, just how great would it be?
It really, really would be.
Yeah.
Eating, sleeping.
Like I don't want to be a wild animal. That stresses me out. When I watch those nature documentaries, I'm like, you are there. Give them fucking food.
Right.
Like I feel so bad. And I'm like, I can't do that. That stresses me out. Being a human, also
pretty stressful.
Pretty fucking stressful. Bugs don't live very long.
And they don't.
You know, and I don't want to be a bird because I'm afraid of heights.
But as a bird, you probably wouldn't be afraid of heights.
I would hope not, but you know.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. But a dog in a rich family.
Yeah. Life of luxury.
That's what I want to come back as.
Okay.
Yeah.
Manifest it.
That's what I'm working on.
Richard and Maurice McDonald opened the first McDonald's in 1940 in San Bernardino. They used to sell 15-cent hamburgers.
Wow.
On July 20th, 2015, 66 people on Huntington Beach all rode the world's biggest surfboard. It measured 42 feet, 12.82 meters in length, 11.05 feet, 3.75 meters in width, and 1.34 feet, or 40.41 meters in thickness. Big thing.
Big thing.
Big ol' thing. The highest and lowest points in the continental U.S. are both located in California, meaning Mount Whitney is the highest. That was my thing. But Mount Whitney is the highest at 14,494 feet above sea level, and Death Valley is the lowest at 282 feet below sea level.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even like higher than stuff in Colorado?
I don't know. That's what it says.
Okay.
I just go with what the internet tells me because everything you read on the internet is true. Every time we say that, Mom, Dad, and I will go, bonjour. Do you remember that one commercial?
Oh, yes.
So every time we're like, everything you read on the internet is true. Bonjour.
My favorite one is with the old ladies who are posting on their wall.
Oh my God. That's not how this works.
That's not how any of this works.
I love that. All right. Fallbrook is known as the avocado capital of the world, also known as the friendly village. And then that reminds me of the old Vine where it says fresh avocado, but it's all spaced out. So it's free shavacado. Oh, I love it so much. All right.
Avocado.
Thanks.
Oh, I think it's the potato.
No, it's an avocado.
Okay.
If you were to combine France, Spain, and Sweden, they would all be the same size of California. What this means is...
What that means, in case you have no concept of spatial reasoning, if you were to take all those countries she just named and shove them together, they would be the same size as California. If it was like Play-Doh, you could probably mold it.
California is home to 9 of the 59 national parks.
That makes sense.
When it was completed in 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge was the longest suspension bridge in the world. But when the bridge was being built, 11 men lost their lives. A safety net was then placed under the bridge, which saved 19 men. These 19 men became known as members of the Halfway to Hell Club. So meaning they would have fallen and died, but this net caught them.
My fear of heights is so deeply rooted that when I see pictures.
Yes. Oh, do you got like the anxiety?
I'm like,
Like, have you seen that one picture? I think it was taken in New York where the guys are sitting on that one beam.
So the only reason why that one's okay is because my mom, like, I stared at that. That used to be in my
Yeah.
living room.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but I was like, at the time, I was like, yeah, no, that's cool. But now when I see that picture,
Right. And
I'm
I just keep
like-
thinking, you have to get off.
they were right. They were just sitting there dangling their fucking feet.
Right.
And I'm
I would
like-
have had like my legs all, okay, I wouldn't be there in the first place, but I would have my legs over both sides because that seems more secure. Like a big gust of wind could push you off if you're the other way.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's
And
windy
up that
there.
high. Yes. I don't like it. Disneyland is the oldest Disney park in the world.
Fortune
Fortune,
OG.
the OG.
The OG.
Fortune cookies, popsicles, and Cobb salads all originated in California. Hula hoops, skateboards, wetsuits, and blue jeans are just a few other items invented here.
Wow.
Walt Disney, Clint Eastwood, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Marilyn Monroe are all from California.
You really don't hear a lot about people like I mean, they can be from California, but I feel like California is one of those places where it's like a very like transient state where like people
Move there.
move there,
Yeah.
especially like LA
Yeah.
versus like New York. Like there's a lot of people who are from New York and then just stay in New York.
Yeah. But it's also because I mean, I guess it's the same kind of thing with California, but New York, you don't necessarily live in the city. Like you could live
don't
in
have
New
to.
York.
Yeah. You could live like in Hoboken.
Hoboken.
What are you doing?
We saw Hoboken when we were going up to New York, and I, of course, pointed it out. I was like, Hoboken. Because you just gotta. We saw a little sign for it.
Yeah.
It's just fun to say.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Hoboken.
Hoboken.
Like Topeka.
Oh my God. Topeka.
Topeka.
Oh, I forgot to tell you. Over the weekend, I saw Scream 6.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Oh, good.
It was so good.
I'm glad you
If you
enjoyed
like the
yourself.
Scream movies, this is a great movie. But my favorite band. There was a little Easter egg for Ice Nine Kills on one of the refrigerators in one of the scenes.
Oh,
You can see
wow.
their band is playing at like a venue, and so you see the little like band memo on their wall or on their fridge, and then they also have their profile picture on Instagram. They had that picture on the fridge.
Oh, that's cool.
I was like, this is so cool. I got really excited. And then, of course, something intense happened. I'm like, oh, so I couldn't be as excited as I wanted to be because then Joe and Jacob were both distracted. But it was really good.
Sounds great.
All right, Mackenzie, what are you telling us?
I have a great story. I'm very excited. So today I bring you this story of the Preston School of Industry. And the Preston School of Industry is filled with the type of stories that you would expect from a reform school for boys in the early half of the 20th century. Filled with horror stories that were committed to and from the young men and boys who attended the school. It housed both the guilty and the innocent. The school was a great idea in theory, but terrible in execution.
Those always sound like a bad idea in theory.
Oh, yeah. They wanted to educate boys in a trade that they could use to be a productive member of society.
Okay.
Sounds like a good
Valid.
idea, right? Unfortunately, these stories contain both solved and unsolved crimes that were committed on the school grounds.
Unsolved? Wild.
Yeah, but at least there's some that are solved.
Yeah.
And or by someone who attended the school. So I will share some of its famous and infamous alum that once called the Preston Castle home.
That's a kind of cool name for it, not going to lie. Preston Castle.
It looks like a castle. It fits.
It's the description.
So, located in Ione, California, in Amador County, which is in Northern California near Sacramento, construction began in 1890 when the state legislature established a progressive action towards rehabilitation rather than prison for juveniles.
Okay.
Ironically,
Oh.
the bricks for the building were made at San Quentin and Folsom prisons.
What a weird little circle we got there.
I know. The bricks for what would be later called the Preston Castle were officially laid on December 23rd, 1980, described as, quote, the most significant example of Romanesque revival architecture. The building was going to be 5 floors with 77 rooms and was designed to be the administration building. In total, the Preston School of Industry encompassed 1,000 acres, and 750 of those acres were used for farmland. They housed 100 wards, employed a staff of 200 people, and utilized about 50 buildings.
Wow. Okay.
So it took me a while to realize wards wasn't short for warden,
Yeah. It's like,
because then I realized that they're wards of the state.
oh, yeah.
I thought I would explain in case anyone was unsure why it was called that the same way that I did.
I feel like I knew it more because of
Right.
Mom's Nonprofit.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first floor of the building contained a reception and director's office, general office with a walk-in vault, reception room, sitting room, a butler's pantry, a dining room, employee lavatory, physician's office, pharmacy, clerk's office, and 3 additional offices.
Wow.
The first floor annex also included a dining room. On the second floor, there was a reading room, library, 12 apartments, a schoolroom, coat and hat room, men's water closet, bathroom,
Oh.
and women's lavatory. The annex would
So
have...
why is it called a men's bath or water room and we get
I
lavatory?
have no idea.
Hmm.
Not a freaking clue.
Weird.
The annex would have a dormitory, locker room, and linen room. The mezzanine would have 2 bathrooms and 3 bathtubs. The 3rd and 4th floor were never finished.
Oh.
The basement included a playroom, a water closet that had long urinal and 9 toilets. So it was, I guess, bigger. Laundry, lavatory with a foot bath,
Oh.
shower room, and plunge bath.
What's a plunge? Oh, I guess like a big bathtub.
Yeah, I think so. Like a small pool. I don't know.
God, I need a bath that's big enough so like both my shoulders and knees can be under the water at the same time.
Right.
Ugh.
Kitchen, pantry, furnace room, fuel storage room, and smaller bathroom. Water closet.
This
So
is like a big place.
yeah, it's huge. The annex included a bakery, full storage
A
room,
bakery?
a bakery,
Cute.
another kitchen, another pantry, another storeroom, and an employee's laundry and lavatory.
Wow.
The first wards were accepted at the school on June 13th, 1894, and the school was officially opened on July 1st, 1894. Soft opening.
Yeah, of course.
It remained open until 1960. It was vacant and fading until September 10th, 2001, when the Preston Castle Foundation received a 50-year lease for the property. It has been named a California State Historical Landmark and is on the National Register for Historic Places. In 2014, the foundation received ownership of the castle and its surrounding now 12.91 acres. So, shrunk.
Yeah.
So the stories about what life was like for the wards of the school and how they ended up at Preston and the lives that were lost, other than those who died from severe illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
Some say that this place is haunted by not only its past, but by ghosts.
Oh, yes, of course.
Others are not so sure. One blog I read by Jamie Rubio, who is an historical investigator and published a book about Preston.
Oh, that sounds cool. A historic investigator?
Right?
I'm looking for a career that I want to do.
I clicked on her to find out more about her so I could talk about her.
Yeah.
And saw all the things that she has done. And it started off as a blog and then it turned into a book. And
How cool.
yeah, it's really cool.
We start off as a podcast, become a TV show.
Whatever. So she published a book about Preston and believes that Preston once housed an alleged serial killer.
Oh.
The order of events make it sound highly likely. I got most of my information from her, and thankfully she did a lot of digging because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to find much about this place until I stumbled across her blog.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like any good story, let's start from the beginning.
Oh, of course.
So kind of umbrella trigger warning. Some of the stories contain topics like rape and assault. So totally understand. It's not all of them. And I tried to be good about making sure that the ones that did have it, I give a little warning, hey, this story is going to have it.
Right.
But just so you know, overall, it'll be included in some of these stories. In March of 1895, the Sacramento Daily Union reported that a boy named William Billy Banning was sentenced to 8 years confinement at Preston for stealing camellias from a lady's yard.
How old was he?
They didn't say.
Oh, sorry.
Billy stole flowers out of Miss Heard's garden and was sentenced by Judge Davis to serve 8 years at Preston School of Industry for stealing flowers. In July of 1909, the San Francisco Call reported that Albert Journey attacked the supervising attendant, J. Strawn, with a hatchet when he was working in the kitchen.
Oh, geez.
Strawn only had minor injuries and was able to avoid serious injury. Journey was subdued by other wards who had seen the attack and came to help. In March of 1910, the Amador Ledger said that Drill Master Captain William H. Wright narrowly missed being fatally shot by a ward named Eugene Griffin. Griffin and another ward, Albert Brown, attempted to escape from Preston. Griffin stole a revolver from the bakery.
From the bakery?
Yeah, I know.
What?
And as he was being chased by White, turned around and shot at him. He barely missed, and the 2 men were later caught and sent to the state prison. On December 6th, 1910, Preston received Herman Huber as a new ward of the school. There's little known about Herman or even why he was at Preston to begin with. We know that he was born on August 8th, 1896. I keep wanting to say 19.
I know. Anything in 18, it's like weird.
To Jenny and Herman Sr. He was 17 when he was sent to Preston. His records only show delinquent next to his name, while others usually had a description of their crime and conviction.
Interesting.
The most that was found on him was that his release date was supposed to be August of 1914. That's
1819, one of those.
1914. That one's right. This would have put him at 21 years of age when boys would age out of the school. Census records show that Herman was the grandson of William Ladd Willis, who had worked in the editorial department of the Record Union and wrote The History of Sacramento. He was of high society, and it looks as if Herman was maybe living with his grandfather at the time. Some think he may have been sent because his family didn't approve of the people he hung around with and didn't approve of his waywardness.
Right.
On October 17th, 1911, when the bell rang for dinner time, Herman Huber and friend John Crane made their escape. Watchman J.D. French went after the two boys, and he shot his gun supposedly to be a warning to the superintendent that an incident was recurring, and accidentally shot and killed Huber.
Oh, yeah.
Because,
Because shooting up and shooting straight forward are really easy to get mixed up.
Yeah. Ernest Reed, who had been paroled that same week, said that he witnessed French shoot Herbert on purpose. He even went before Governor Hiram Johnson and shared the harsh treatment that they faced on a regular basis. He said, quote, "The boys who would incur displeasure of the officials at the school are confined to insanity quarters, flayed on their bare back with a heavy strap, and given a bread and water diet with more water than bread." The guard was exonerated on all charges on the grounds that he was performing his duty.
I don't think performing your duty is shooting someone.
Yeah. No, very sketch. In April of 1919, Ward Sam Goines was making his third attempt to escape Preston. There was a lot of people who tried to escape.
Well,
like so many people.
Seems like it wasn't a great place you want to be, so you want to escape.
Yeah. He had made it to the Thornton Ranch, which I couldn't tell if that was like on the property because they did have that farm, but I wasn't really sure. But the guards found him there. He had threatened to kill anyone who had tried to catch him. And when guard J.E. Kelly tried to get Goines to stop with verbal commands, he then tried to shoot him in the leg. And as he went to shoot, Goines either fell or bent down, depending on the statement you read, to go under a wire that might have been part of a fence.
Okay.
And the bullet ended up hitting him in the back. The Amador Ledger reported, quote, "Samuel Goines, colored, an inmate of the Preston School, was fatally shot by guard J.E. Kelly last Saturday. Goines escaped from school the day before, and the guards found him at the Thornton Ranch. He threatened to kill anyone who attempted to take him. Kelly, failing to hold him by command, fired to hit him in the leg, but just as he pressed the trigger, Goines stopped to go under a wire fence, and the bullet struck him in the back. He lived several hours and before dying, exonerated the guard, declaring he alone was to blame for the affair. Kelly was acquitted by the coroner's inquest held Tuesday. The funeral was held in Ione Wednesday. Goines was a native of North Carolina, age 20, and he went to the school from Alameda County for burglary. He was 2 months away from being released.
Damn.
Yeah.
You just waited 2 months.
Yeah. So in December of 1923, two young boys in Pasadena, California, set out to go play in an abandoned building. Paul Dadler, 14, and William Billy Forrester, 12, met when they both attended the Monroe School for Subnormal Children.
Subnormal children.
Subnormal meaning that the children who attended the school were thought to have lower intelligence than their peers.
Wow, that's awful.
Yes.
Jeez.
One of the boys had decided to bring a loaded gun with them to practice shooting at the abandoned building. Some reports say that 5-year-old Arturo, I can say it really well in my head.
Yeah. It's like my mouth doesn't want to move the way I need it to move.
Arturo Martinez.
Beautiful with that R roll.
Thank you. Some say he secretly followed them. Another one I read said that they knew he was there. But regardless, according to Billy, when Paul saw Arturo in his shooting range, he began to shoot at him.
Oh my God.
He ended up shooting the little boy 2 times in the head and once in the back. It gets worse.
Oh, great.
The boys feared that the little one would tattle, so they beat him over the head with a brick and tied him up to a post. They returned the next day to find the little boy dead.
Obviously.
The boys reported it to the police that they had found the body, but after being questioned, both admitted to the crime.
Right.
During the trial, Paul's family pulled out all the stops. He came from a well-off family, and they could afford to have 2 lawyers and multiple witnesses that say that Paul wasn't at the building at the time of the murder.
Oh, my God.
Billy had been adopted, and the only person with him was his mother. Billy was sent to Preston and Paul to the Whittier School. At some point, someone from Paul's legal team paid a visit to Billy, and afterwards, Billy made a statement that he was solely responsible for the crime and Paul wasn't there.
Oh, I don't like that.
He said in his confession, quote, "I pulled the gun and shot him. Then I thought I would put the blame on someone else, so I shot him 2 more times. I happened to think that whenever Paul Diedler got mad, he always threw bricks, so I decided to throw bricks at Arturo. So it would appear that Paul hit him." When Paul was released from the Whittier School, he was considered a ward of the state, and a judge ordered him to leave California and never return.
Wow.
By 1927, Paul had made his way back to California and went before a judge for vagrancy charges.
What's vagrancy again?
I don't know.
Oh.
I was hoping you would. The state of living as a vagrant. It's
Homeless. I love when the word is in the definition.
Yes. So the judge had sent him up to Preston for the rest of his sentence, and Paul lived the rest of his life in LA and died in 1981. So what happened?
Recent.
Yeah. So what happened to Billy Forrester? He had served a little over a year and was paroled from Preston in November of 1925. This was the last anyone knew or saw of Billy. No census records or Google searches produced a Billy Forrester except for the articles about this school. No one knows what happened to William Billy Forrester. He just vanished without a trace.
Oh,
Poof, gone.
I feel like there's something like nefarious there.
Yes. So do a lot of people.
Oh.
In December of 1924, a fight started at a football game between wards Edgar Hoff and Leland Price. The boys were put into the basement as punishment, and the fight continued.
Well, duh.
Yeah. At some point during the fight, Price was either knocked over or slipped, but he cracked his head on the concrete floor, which fractured his skull, and he slipped into a coma and died the next day.
Oh, God.
So here's where things get juicy.
Oh.
In February of 1950, the body of head of housekeeping Anna Corbin was found by another housekeeper in the basement storeroom. Anna was found in a corner under a pile of carpets. Investigators determined she had been attacked in her office and dragged to the storeroom. Anna had been strangled and beaten to death. Investigators originally thought she may have been raped because her underwear was found around her ankles and there were shoe polish marks on them. It was assumed she had been trying to fight off her attacker as he assaulted her from behind. Dr. Charles Blumenfield testified that she had not been sexually assaulted, but Anna did attempt to fight off her attacker. The cause of death was determined to be choking with a hemp cord and a skull fracture after she hit her head on the concrete floor. Investigators did find a blood-soaked rag at the scene, as if the assailant had tried to clean up afterwards.
If you're going to leave the body, why are you trying to clean up?
I don't know, put on their carpets? I don't know. Police searched all 657 wards at the school and were able to pinpoint their investigation to 3 possible suspects.
Oh, wow.
Eventually, police found blood-stained shoes and a belt that narrowed it down to just one: Ward Eugene Monroe. Monroe was 19 years old at the time and was known for having a temper. He had been sent to Preston in 1950 on burglary charges. Police questioned 400 wards using a lie detector, and Monroe's statement of his activities before and after the murder did not line up with the other statements. Monroe claimed that he had cut his hand, and that was why there was bloodstains on his clothing.
So convenient.
Oh, also, he had tried to burn some of his clothing, which I don't...
Casual way to get rid of your clothing.
That fact was just kind of thrown in there, so I'm not sure how we got there. But apparently he also was doing a bunch to shine his shoes.
With shoe polish?
So Monroe had been assigned to sweeping detail around the outside of the castle, and Anna was in the basement arranging flowers, and it would have been very easy for Monroe to walk the 200 feet to the basement and sneak in undetected. Investigators had found letters that Anna had written to her daughter Avis expressing her concerns about some of the wards housed at the school, telling her that how she had found knives on 2 boys who had asked her what she would do if a boy had threatened her with a knife.
Ew.
Others said they wanted to marry her or have sex with her. They said make love, which I thought was funny.
That's kind of innocently sweet. I know it shouldn't be in this case, but
well, it was from the daughter was explaining, and she was she said that they wanted to make love, and I'm like, it's so weird to say it like that.
Yeah.
When I'm like, that's not what,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. So as investigators interrogated Monroe, his quick temper started to show. At one point, he was questioned in the superintendent's office, and a former executive secretary shared this memory about Monroe. Quote, in that office, my desk was between the office they used to interview the boy they thought was the guilty one, and on the other side was the superintendent's office. They kept having these meetings. The sheriff and everybody met over there, and I'll never forget the psychiatrist that had been assigned to the job would go over there and interview the kid, and I could hear the voices through the wall. And then I'd hear the boy's voice rise and rise and rise and rise and rise and rise and rise. Shit you not, there's like 6 rises.
Oh my God.
And it would get up there very high, like he was at the edge, And then the psychiatrist came out and indicated Monroe, was right on the edge. Something awful happened there. He came around and told them that they were right on the edge of getting a confession, and Sheriff Lockett was there in the building, and he misunderstood or something happened, and he got up and he took the boy, took him out, and put him up in the county jail.
Oh.
Monroe remained adamant that he did not have anything to do with Anna Corbin's murder. A.E. Rydell was a lie detector expert for Berkeley's police department and said, quote, every evidence and enough
corroborating.
Thank you.
Like Carrabba's. Corroborating. Corroborating. It's like all those videos where it's like, there's the one with like Friends where she's like teaching Joey French. Ja m'appelle Joubadoudou.
Yes, that's me. Okay. Every evidence and enough corroborating.
Close.
Okay. Statements of witnesses to strongly indicate this boy is a murderer. Monroe was officially charged with murder on March 3rd, 1950. William Mercer was a witness for the prosecution. He said that he had seen Monroe strike Miss Corbin, but then ran off and did not witness the actual murder. He said that Monroe had attacked Anna because she had witnessed Monroe and Mercer engaging in a, quote, homosexual act.
Oh, no.
And I was like, nothing more on that.
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, because anything homosexual back then was just...
Well, no, I know. But it was also like there's like more to Monroe's story.
Mm-hmm.
And at no point did we circle back to that.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I can believe it because it's probably like one of those things where it's like, if I say this, I know this is going to be like a point.
Well, he did recant his statement saying that none of it had ever happened. But then he later admitted that his life had been threatened by Monroe's attorney. And that is why he had taken back his statement. But this time he was like, no, this really did happen.
Right.
This is why I did this in the first place. Despite the witness statements, the bloodstains, and failed lie detector tests, the trial resulted in a hung jury twice. By the third time that Monroe was tried for Anna's murder, he was acquitted of all charges.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Mm-hmm. So, did Monroe really do it? The evidence seemed to be a strong case against him, even for that time. There is another piece of evidence, technically circumstantial, that was never brought to light during his trial. In 1947, 370 miles south of Preston in south central LA, the body of 17-year-old Vesta Sapinter was found in her upstairs bedroom. Vesta was a smart and sweet young lady and was an honor student at her high school. After a friend had walked her home, she went upstairs to hang curtains in her bedroom. A report from the newspaper clipping shared the following. And the quote I'm going to share is one that was shared after Anna's trial.
Okay.
But it ties both together really nicely.
Oh.
So that's why I'm sharing this one.
Okay.
Because when I read it, it was out of order. And I was like, I'm confused. So I wanted to give that context before I read it to you guys. So, quote, Monroe, delivering furniture to the Sapinter home, talked to the girl's younger brother and asked to use the bathroom, according to Copage. I'm assuming that was a police officer.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yep. While the brother remained outside, Monroe went upstairs, he said, and came back down. He asked the boy where his sister was and was told that she was upstairs.
Ew, that's creepy.
Uh-huh. The suspect, according to police, said that he had not seen her. The brother and Monroe then re-entered the house and found her bedroom door locked. It was broken down and the body was discovered.
Oh.
The slain girl had been keeping house for her father and brother and was hanging curtains when the murderer entered the room, the police officer declared. Monroe, who was using his stepfather's last name at the time, was questioned but later released. Copage said since there was no witnesses to the crime, nor could evidence be corroborated.
Close, yeah.
Mhm. The knot that was tied in a rope around the young girl's neck was also the same type of knot that was in the rope around Miss Corbin's neck, investigators said.
Interesting.
The knot had been pulled up tight behind the left ear in both cases, it was reported. Kopich declared today, I am certain this boy did the job, but we were never able to prove it. He was the only one in the house at the time and had ample time to commit the act.
With the brother right outside. Oh,
Yeah. So Monroe was never charged with her murder, and by 1950, he was sent up to Preston. After he was acquitted for the murder of Ann Corbin, he was paroled to Oklahoma to live with his aunt. He was released in October 1950, and by July of 1951, he had been arrested 4 times on sexual perversion charges. While he was awaiting for his day in court, he was caught slipping notes to other inmates bragging about the fact that he had gotten away with murder. The next part of this story, trigger warning, it is talk about assault, so do what you need to do. Skip ahead. Dorothy Waldrop's body was discovered on a grassy knoll near the apartment complex she lived in with her husband. When he was at work, Dorothy was brutally raped and strangled with a dirty handkerchief found knotted around her throat. Dorothy was a former dance teacher, and she was also pregnant at the time of her death.
Oh.
Dorothy had been strangled and then raped post-mortem. 2 boys had come forward and said that on the night she was murdered, they had seen a man driving a car with California license plates. Police also found part of Dorothy's Venetian blinds found in a clump of weeds near where her body was found.
That's suspicious.
This time, the police were able to get fingerprints from the curtains and match them to Eugene Monroe.
Ooh.
Monroe was arrested, and his trial began in January of 1952. In April, he was convicted of all charges and sentenced to life in prison. Even though he was given a life sentence plus 35 years for an armed robbery of a theater in Oklahoma City, he, for whatever reason, was released from prison in 1981. Yeah.
Why do they allow that?
Don't know.
You killed someone. You should never be allowed out.
Right. And like his attorney fought for him not to get the electric chair because at the time, I think like rape with murder or something like that was considered
Especially heinous.
Yeah. And it was a capital punishment.
Well,
right. So.
And then the person who should have gotten capital punishment is now free.
Right. So settled for life in prison plus 35 years.
Oh my God.
Gets out in 30.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Our legal system, I swear.
Right. I couldn't find why he was released.
Probably good behavior.
But he got lost in the system of the Oklahoma corrections.
Oklahoma?
Yeah, because that's where he was convicted in Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
He was never convicted for what happened in California.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed that part.
And they later found out that he had passed away in October of 2007 in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Recent.
So Jamie Rubio, the author who I got most of my information from about this place, had these final thoughts on Eugene Monroe. Quote, despite the fact that Eugene Monroe was not convicted of Vesta and Anna's murders, but only Dorothy's murders did not change the fact that all the evidence pointed to him being the murderer in all 3 cases. In fact, in the recent months, I was contacted by Jay Paul, a former police officer from Kansas, who has been researching a series of rapes and murders that took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma during the 1940s and 50s. As J. Paul started digging through the case files, he noticed Eugene Monroe's name kept popping up as a suspect in many cases. With continued research, he has come to believe that Monroe was the one who committed these crimes. And he reached out to me after reading my blog where I mentioned my theory that Eugene Monroe might have been a serial killer. It appears that J. Paul feels the same way about Monroe.
Interesting.
So, could the Preston School of Industry really be responsible for producing serial killers? Or was it just a place that serial killers had been associated with at one time? Here are a few famous and infamous wards of Preston. Merle Haggard, who was an American country music singer, songwriter, guitarist, and fiddler. Between the 1960s and the 1980s, he had 38 number 1 hits on the country charts, including some that made it on the Billboard all-genre singles chart.
Dang.
In his youth, Haggard was in and out of detention centers and ran away a few times, seemingly to from Texas and California.
Okay.
I wasn't really sure. In 1951, he went back to Bakersfield, California, where he was arrested for truancy and petty larceny and was sent to a juvenile detention center that he proceeded to escape from. Once caught, he was sent to Preston, which was considered to be high security installation.
Jeez.
He was there for 15 months and was quickly sent back after he beat up a local boy while committing another burglary.
Oh,
He would grow up to be in and out of prison, but eventually he would be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame
jeez.
and received a Kennedy Center honors.
My God.
So, was Merle Haggard a star pupil of the rehabilitation process? Well, in 1958, Haggard and another inmate nicknamed Rabbit were discussing plans to try and escape. Fellow inmates had convinced them that this was a bad idea, so they didn't go through with it. After he was caught drunk, he was sent to solitary confinement for a week. This is where he met death row inmate Carl Chessman. More on him later. Haggard got wind that Rabbit had successfully escaped until he shot a police officer and was returned to San Quentin to be executed.
Dude.
Between Chessman and Rabbit, this inspired Haggard to change his life. He was paroled in 1960 and was an established country music star by 1972.
Wow.
California Governor Ronald Reagan granted Haggard a full and unconditional pardon for his past crimes. So, again, trigger warning. Same content. So, you can skip ahead. So, who's Carl Chessman? How bad can a situation be to be inspirational for another person to get their life together?
Right.
Well,
That makes you really need to, think about your life at that point.
Well, Chessman was a convicted robber, kidnapper, and serial rapist who was sentenced to death for his crimes committed in January 1948. During the late 1930s and early 1940s, Chessman was caught stealing cars on multiple occasions. He was sent to Preston twice within a year of each other. When he got older, he was dubbed by the newspapers as the Red Light Bandit for repeatedly robbing people at red lights.
Oh, jeez.
Some of those thefts resulted in the kidnapping and rape of 2 women. Chessman was convicted of 17 counts of robbery, kidnapping, and rape.
Wow.
And at the time, kidnapping with bodily harm was considered a capital punishment in California.
Damn.
And Chessman was sentenced to be executed. With all his appeals, he was able to avoid his execution deadline 8 times.
Oh my God.
And was on death row for almost 12 years. Chessman was executed in April of 1960 by the gas chamber. He was one of the last to be executed before California abolished the death penalty. Rory Cullen was an American film and television actor. He starred in numerous westerns in the 50s and 60s. He was also appeared in a supporting role in How to Marry a Millionaire, which starred Marilyn Monroe. When he was 13, he stole a revolver, which got him sent to Preston. He escaped while he was... he also escaped while he was in the adjustment center. Which,
they need a better security system here.
High security, but
Right.
people keep escaping. He escaped while he was in the adjustment center, which, according to Wikipedia, is the jail within a jail.
Wow.
Yeah. So eventually he got his shit together, and by 1944, he met actor Alan Ladd while riding horseback in the Hollywood Hills.
Oh, gosh.
And apparently Alan was impressed by Calhoun's physique. So he introduced him to his wife, who was a talent agent, and the rest, they say, is history.
Wow.
So our last, but probably most infamous, although I don't know if I knew who they were. Again, trigger warning. Sexual assault will be talked about, and even some child abuse.
Oh.
So please be advised. Our last bad apple was Gerald Armand Galigo. Galigo and his wife, Charlene Adele Galigo, were serial killers and rapists between 1978 and 1980. By age 10, Galigo had been arrested for the first time when he was caught robbing a neighbor's home. When he was 12, he sexually abused a 6-year-old girl, which is when he was sent to Preston. When he had his own daughter, he also molested her and one of her friends, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Gerald and Charlene met in 1977, and they would go on to murder at least 10 victims, most of who were teens and had been sexually assaulted before they were killed. Oh, that's it. When I was reading about them, which I almost went off into a tailspin of these people and their crimes, and I was like, no,
I bet.
Come back.
Yeah. Because I was just thinking, you did such a great job giving little tidbits.
Yeah. And Charlene was released from prison in 1997, I think.
Wow.
So apparently she got super into psychology and, I am the victim. So although her not childhood, but past wasn't exactly squeaky clean.
No.
So so that is the Preston School of Industry,
Dang.
also known as the Preston Castle. Yeah.
Not a great place.
Not a great place. And there's like more. Like that's the thing.
Oh, I bet. Just from like the information you gave, I'm like, that's not everything.
No. And like I said, this girl's blog was really, really well,
And was it all about the castle?
all about the castle.
Wow. Was her book all about the castle?
All about the castle.
Dang. So yeah, there's a lot
Oh, yeah.
there.
Now, I was originally looking at this because it came up as being haunted.
Mhm.
But then, like, I went to a couple of different websites. There's not like a ton of videos. And you see like a couple of people, and it kind of sounds like the one website I looked at and their videos, every time they like would put something up that like was supposedly being able to be heard, I'm like, I do not hear anything.
Right. Right. Like I could easily say, oh my God, did you hear this? What's that?
Like even one time he was like he was rewinding the recorder
Mhm.
in the video.
Yeah.
And to play it back for the people in the room. And I like closed my eyes and I was like really, really listening. I was like, I don't hear fucking shit.
I mean, it could be that things don't get picked up in the recorders.
True.
Because sometimes Roy will be gnawing on a toy in the background and we don't hear it.
That's true.
But if it's something that you're posting on, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what deterred me from looking more into these haunted tales was one of the main points that Jamie Rubio really was she kept bringing up on different posts, especially when it came to Anna,
Mhm.
is that, she was like, I work really hard to make sure that I can give you the most factual information that I can find. And she was even really good about saying like, I read, I found this, in this place, but that was the only thing I read about it. Like kind of like what we do.
Yeah, yeah. One source says.
And what she was really frustrated about was that a lot of the stories that these paranormal investigators tell, especially of Anna, are not true.
Mm.
And so it kind of gets turned into this tailspin.
Right.
Just, to say like, some report says she lived there and she's like, she didn't live there.
Right.
And different stories of where she was found and that she haunts the place and all these things. And so the more I kept reading, I was like, okay, well, there's enough juicy detail here that I don't need to talk about the fact that it's haunted.
Right.
It probably is, given what's happened.
Yeah, I would assume based on all like just the negative energy that's there.
Well, but the thing is, too, is that the building that's left is the administration building. It's not even like...
Yeah, but I feel like just the grounds, there's like a lot of negative stuff at the grounds.
Oh, for sure. I definitely think that there's probably some freaky things going on.
Yeah.
But I figured that if I looked into it, it would be focused on like Anna and all these things.
Probably.
And I wanted to also be respectful because she's a real person.
Mm-hmm.
This really happened to all these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I wanted to be able to tell their story accurately.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably is haunted. You can go check it out if you want to. I'm going to pass.
You're going to pass?
I'm going to pass. This was good enough for me. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds wild. Sounds just evil. Just dark and evil.
I did not expect it to be this kind of story.
No, I didn't either. Because when you were talking about like, oh yeah, these people were there, I was like, oh, are these like ghosts who you're going to be talking about? No, I think this was a very cool story.
I'm so glad I stumbled across her blog because there really wasn't much on it aside from like, those, what we always run into.
Right.
Same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And so there were stories in there that like I had seen on other posts and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much. And so like, I tried to pick like the most interesting.
Yeah.
There was one story that I ended up not doing, mostly because the guy like the main crime he committed was after he had already left.
Oh.
But I randomly found this other like blog post about the fact that apparently when he was at the state prison, he was like this big baseball star. Like apparently he was a really good baseball star and all the inmates wanted to like try to take his place because he was on death row. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so because of that, but that was the only place I saw it. I didn't see it in this other lady's. Granted, they talked about the same crime.
Oh, interesting.
But just not mentioning, granted, the focus was Preston, and I don't think this lady was more focused on the guy.
Okay, yeah.
But it was just so bizarre. Like, that weird. I was like, when the fuck baseball. Like, what?
How are sports involved in this?
Right. So it was, go read about it because there's far more than I covered.
Could fit.
Yes.
Well,
I
that
would
was
have been
fascinating.
up for days.
This was a very interesting, scary thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah, very different, but like cool different.
Yeah. I already did the intro.
No, I know. I was just looking at you.
Lauren, what are you talking about?
Oh my God. All right. So today I am covering a murder.
Murder.
So overall blanket trigger warning for this case. I will be discussing rape. Yes.
It's kind of creepy to me how recently parallel the stories we covered.
I was thinking the same thing when you were like, oh yeah, I have to do some trigger warnings. I was like, are you kidding me? Like they have been very like on par, like very weird similarities.
Yes.
Ooh, I talk about weird similarities in this case as well.
Oh my God.
All right. So on December 19th, 1976, Janet Aline Stallcup left her house in Santa Ana around 8:30 p.m.
Santa Ana.
to head to a coworker's Christmas party in Garden Grove. But unfortunately, she would never make it to that party. Just 8 days later, on December 27th, 1976, her body would be found 2.5 miles away from her apartment. She had been raped and murdered. So Janet was described as being a tall, slender woman with brown shoulder-length hair and blue eyes. She was a 19-year-old nursing student attending Cypress College. She wanted to work as a pediatric nurse.
Love that.
And in a way to work towards that goal, she was working at the UCI Medical Center in Orange as a part-time employee. She was described as being at the peak of her life. She had goals that she was very successfully working towards. She was known as being very vibrant and having a lot of friends. Those who knew her said she was quiet, nice, studious, and just all around a wholesome young woman. She was also very safe by never speaking to strangers, never picking up hitchhikers, and always kept her car doors locked. It is
That
all
is smart because it was the 70s and
right.
anything went. So good for her.
All the hitchhiking.
Yes.
Did I tell you about my weird story once? I was leaving the house and I was at the end of my street and this woman comes up to my car, like the side window. And so I rolled it down just a teeny bit and she's like, could you drive me past the bridge? And I was like, what? And she's like, I just need a ride past the bridge. And I was like, I am literally going in the exact opposite way. I was. But I was like, so no, I can't give you a ride. And so I rolled up my window and I drove on and she was like asking all the cars that were stopping at that stop. I was like, you could walk.
I was going to say, it'll probably take you just as much time just to fucking walk.
Right. Like, because you know where that bridge is from my house. It's like if you come out past, yeah. And I'm like, it's not that far. But it was very creepy. And I was like, no one's going to pick up a random woman asking to get a ride. So it was on all of the safe stuff she was doing. It was also reported that she had taken self-defense classes.
Good for her.
I know.
Badass bitch.
So on December 19th, 1976, Janet left her house unknowingly for the last time to head to the Christmas party that her coworker from the medical center was throwing.
It's like you do everything right.
I know. 2:30 a.m. rolled around the morning after the party on December 20th, and Janet's roommate started to get worried when Janet still hadn't returned home. This definitely wasn't like her. She definitely would have been home by now or would have at least made some form to let you know she was staying out. This led her roommate to immediately call her parents. Obviously worried as well, they immediately reported Janet as missing, and a full search was launched. Sergeant Paul Fiegner and other investigators began interviewing any associates of Janet's, trying to get more information about her, where she may be, just kind of trying to figure out what happened. They started interviewing neighbors and anyone who may have seen Janet coming or going the night she went missing. Her father, James Stallcup, offered a $5,000 reward for any information that led to her discovery. He said, quote, she was happy in school, happy at work, had no boyfriend trouble or nothing. I'm so convinced that she met up with some bad place somewhere that I've put up $5,000 of my own money to get her back, and I'm not a wealthy man. I was like, that's really sad. An alert went out to be on the lookout for Janet's mint condition white 1962 Ford Falcon, which was also missing.
That sounds like a really nice car.
Yeah. Her father said that it would stick out like a sore thumb because it was so clean. So it shouldn't be that hard to find. For 8 days, no sign of Janet was found. Until police cadets, who were part of a 6-person team, were detailed to be searching the surrounding apartment complexes and shopping centers, specifically looking for her car. And that is when her car was spotted. Hidden between an apartment house garage and a block wall. It said block. I don't know what a block wall is, but in the not well-known visitor spots of the Franciscan Gardens apartment complex, which was just 2.5 miles from her apartment. Her naked body, covered up by a jacket, was found lying in the front seat. Well, immediately, crime scene investigators, the coroner, the ME, and authorities were swarming the area. At the time, right when her body was found, her cause of death was undetermined, as there were no visible wounds on her body. Obviously, it was taken for an autopsy. By now, police listed her death as a homicide, but the coroner still said that her cause of death had not yet been determined. The newspapers I found that talked about her, I didn't like this. They said, while coroner's investigators said that the cause of the attractive young woman's death, Like, they would say attractive, pretty all the time. And
Why do you
like,
have to include that?
right, she was very pretty, obviously, from
But
all the
that shouldn't
pictures.
matter.
But it doesn't, exactly. It doesn't need to be included that she's this attractive, pretty woman.
Right.
Like, I did not like that. But my whole point was just, I don't like. Meh. So further tests and analysis by the coroner revealed that Janet had been sexually assaulted. There were also clear signs that she had been manually strangled, resulting in her neck being broken, which is what ultimately led to her death.
Oh my God.
So just a side note here, Garden Grove police also noted that there had been another rape that had occurred in the same area where Janet had been found just a month prior on November 17th. That victim had also been 19 years old. It was around this time that her parents took back the $5,000 reward for information leading to finding her and instead changed it to $5,000 for information leading to her killer or killers. The Long Beach Independent Press Telegram newspapers also offered $2,000 through their secret witness program, so there was a $7,000 reward for any information. Additional tests were done to pinpoint the exact time of death, but at the time, it was believed that she had died about December 22nd, 3 days after she left for the Christmas party.
Oh, shit.
So she left. They believe she died 3 days after that, and then she was found 5 days after that.
So what happened those 3 days?
We don't know. I literally put, which leads us to wonder, what happened to her during those 3 days. No, literally, there's no idea what happened during those 3 days.
Wow.
Physical evidence was also taken from the car, a pack of chewing gum, Janet's clothing, and semen. As for the pack of chewing gum, her roommate claims that hadn't been in their house, that the gum had to be new, leading to the fact that maybe she stopped off at a gas station before heading to the party. And as for the semen, at the time, we didn't have DNA testing that we have today.
Right.
At the time, we could only tell the person's blood type from the semen, not their true identity. So there's something, but it's just not a lot.
Yeah.
But these 3 things were taken in as evidence. So obviously, they're trying to put together a picture of what happened from the moment she left her house to the presumed time of death, which, again, those 3 days that we don't know what happened.
Right.
Bob Romaine is a retired DA investigator. He had begun his career with the Orange County Sheriff's Department, but now works on cold case homicide investigations in Garden Grove.
Okay.
Which is kind of like, how are there so many in one little town? That's your... His belief is that Stallcup had been kidnapped as she was getting into her car, but from there, he isn't sure. Of course, the information about her disappearance went out everywhere. Hundreds and hundreds of leads came in, and all of them were followed up on, but ultimately they led absolutely nowhere. Then a big break in the case, or so they thought, came when the Los Angeles Times released an article on January 1st, 1977 that included drawings of the suspected murderers.
Where'd they get that from?
Apparently, an anonymous witness had come forward and provided the descriptions after claiming that they did see the abduction of Janet on the night she went missing.
Oh.
That witness remained anonymous, as identifying them could seriously endanger them and put them at risk. It is believed that this description may have come from the victim I talked about earlier, who had been raped a month before Janet had been, but that couldn't be confirmed for obvious reasons.
Right.
The first suspect was described as being a white male between 22 and 24 years of age.
Child.
I know. About 5'10" and weighing about 185 pounds. He was described as having a round face and, quote, frizzy, dirty blonde hair that was parted down the middle. He was I know. Like, not a good description.
No.
He was possibly armed with a chrome-plated .38 caliber revolver. The other murder suspect was also described as being a white male, but between the ages of 26 and 28. 6 feet tall, weighing about 180 pounds. His hair was described as being light brown and kinky, worn in a short ponytail.
Light brown and kinky.
Like, kind of like that wiry-ish is how I pictured it.
I'm like picturing them like both of them just look like they got electrocuted.
I'll try to remember to send you the pictures so that we can post the images on our story. The police said that the suspect's vehicle may be a 1963 or 1964 white Chevrolet two-door sedan, but no license plate was given. It is believed that these 2 men may be responsible for the rape of the other 19-year-old that happened in the same area. Since the police sketches of the subjects went public, the police department received more than 100 phone calls of possible suspects. Calls range from people claiming they saw one of the men at a bar, or they had cut the suspect's hair once, or had pulled a tooth once. Like, really,
oh my goodness.
Really just kind of random.
Yeah.
Though some of the calls were just so far off, some did seem very important, and all tips and leads were being looked into. But the police also started to worry that if people did have information, but their information of the people didn't fit the sketches, maybe they wouldn't call. You know, so they saw something suspicious, but it doesn't fit these 2 images, so it can't be anything important.
Right.
So they were worried that like valuable information was being missed because people were so set on just these sketches.
Yeah, and like potentially, who those people were.
Right, and potentially leading them in the wrong direction if these 2 people weren't related to it at all. So then we're missing a whole group of people it could potentially be.
Right.
Then in August of 1978, a victim who had been raped in San Juan, Capistrano was able to piece together a composite of the person who had attacked them. They gave an identical description, except for facial hair, of the ones that the witness had provided in the case before.
Interesting.
It was around this time that police agencies really started to compare notes, thank God. About a month after Janet went missing, then was murdered, on January 21st, another woman, also from Garden Grove, was shot and murdered. That woman was 20-year-old Laura Ann Stroughton. Stroughton was a student at Long Beach City College and also worked as a hostess at a restaurant in Newport Beach. It is believed she was abducted and killed in the early morning hours of January 21st. It is said that she left work in the evening of January 20th to join some friends at a hotel with a bar. She was last seen leaving the hotel around 1:30 a.m. on January 21st. That same day at noon, her body was found by a motorcyclist on a lonely hilltop in eastern Orange, clutching a crucifix in her hand.
Oh my.
She had been reported missing earlier that day when her parents noticed her car parked outside of their home, but there was no sign of their daughter. Her time of death was estimated to have been between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., so not long after she was seen leaving the hotel, just a couple hours. So here are some weird similarities between Laura and Janet. They were both classmates at Garden Grove High School, and according to a witness, they both knew each other, graduating only a year apart. Both girls were residents of Garden Grove and came from well-off families. They were, again, both described as being attractive, pretty women. Both victims' last names began with ST.
Okay.
And both victims' purses were missing when they were found.
Okay.
The huge difference, though, is that Janet was raped and Stoughton was not.
Okay.
But to this, police believe that her kidnappers, Stoughtons, had planned to do the same thing to her, but ended up shooting her after she tried to run away.
Oh.
Okay, so slightly graphic here, so if you don't want to hear that, just boop ahead like 15 seconds. So they believed that she was running away because of how the bullet wounds were. So the first shot hit her in the shoulder, which made her, she must have fallen down from that because while in a sitting position, she was shot in the face.
Jesus.
So what is wildly fascinating is that detectives were able to determine that based on her position and the trajectory of the bullets, that her murderer, the person who shot her, had to have been between 5'8" and 6 feet tall.
Math is wild.
How, I know this is absolutely horrible, but how cool is it that they can figure that out based on just all that information?
Math.
Bob Adams, Orange Sergeant, described that there are many notable similarities between the two cases and that they're entertaining the idea of a dual murder theory. There have also been many unsolved murders in this area, to include 20-year-old Robin Lynn Cox, who was found strangled and drowned in her bathtub on January 12th. She, too, was working as a waitress at the time. It was starting to believe that these cases, Janet, Stroughton, and the rape victim from earlier, could all be related somehow. It is also right around the time that the original Night Stalker, or the East Area Rapist, was terrorizing California.
Oh, shit.
Rapes and murders all associated to this guy were popping up all over the state, and people were in an absolute frenzy. So naturally, it was also theorized that maybe Stallcup had fallen victim to him. So there are also some weird connections that could support this theory. So I mentioned that Janet worked at the UCI Medical Center in Orange. Well, one of the original Night Stalker's victims, Patrice Harrington, had also worked there.
Oh.
Dorothy Jane Scott, another victim, had disappeared from the medical center in 1980 right before she was murdered.
Oh, shit.
And before he was discovered using DNA, the original Night Stalker, Golden State Killer, Joseph D'Angelo's mother and stepfather had both lived in Garden Grove in 1973 and 1974, 2 years before Janet's murder.
Huh.
His brother also lived in Garden Grove for a number of years. So he was in this area.
Yeah.
This was his area. But there were still no solid leads, and at this point, the reward for information leading to an arrest rose to $12,000.
Damn.
There were a few anonymous donors who put in even more money to this pot.
That's nice.
Yeah. The police conducted hundreds of interviews, followed the countless leads that had come through. They said that they had interviewed quite a few potential suspects, but none could be linked to the area of the crime during the time that it happened. These suspects included sex criminals and parolees in the area, as well as persons arrested in the area and nearby areas for sex crimes. But even with all of the work being put into the case, they were no closer to figuring out what happened to Janet. With nowhere else to turn, the case eventually went cold.
No.
The case remained cold for the next 37 years.
Damn.
But in the early 2000s, the early aughts, when new technology was available, evidence was retested. The DNA profile was sent to the California Department of Data's Justice Bank, as well as to the FBI's combined DNA index system. But no matches were found.
Damn.
Next, detectives requested a familial DNA search. So OCRegister.com described familial DNA searches as, quote, familiar searches explore offender databases for near matches of people who might be a parent, child, or sibling of a suspect who left DNA at the crime scene, but whose DNA profile is not yet in a database.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great. But again, no matches were found. At this point, Bob Romaine, the retired DA, said that they had done everything they could do for this case, and once again, it became a cold case. So you thought I was bringing you yet another cold case, an unsolved murder? Well, you'd be wrong. DNA advances have come an insanely long way since the 70s and the early aughts. In 2002, just about 2 years after it was deemed a cold case again, investigators were able to create a DNA profile for the killer using the evidence that had been taken from the crime scene, that semen. So back then, like I said, they were only able to get the blood type from it. But at the time the DNA was first taken back in 1976, there were no DNA matches in the law enforcement database, CODIS, Combined DNA Index System, for that sample. Well, at this time, the crime lab was able to isolate the DNA from the samples that had been taken from the crime scene all those years earlier. Still no matches, but now we actually have DNA from it. So not just finding the blood type, we have legit a DNA sample.
Okay.
Thankfully, the unsolved case for Janet remained on the minds of those who had worked in Orange and with the Garden Grove police. The new advances in DNA always allowed Janet's case to be thought of again. So they would have a new advancement. They're like, oh, Janet's case, let's try something. In 2020, yes.
Oh my God.
2020, Garden Grove police were able to push prosecutors to use genetic genealogy to help try to match the DNA that they had with any suspect using the familial DNA, which was obviously much better at this time than it was in the early 2000s. Genetic information was submitted by relatives of possible suspects to help enhance the search for a match, which this is exactly how the Golden State Killer was caught.
Yeah.
A living relative of the Golden State Killer put it in his DNA. I think through Ancestry.com, you can select
there was that big thing where everyone wanted to know their...
Right, yeah. And so at the time, and I think they maybe recently added it, you can put if you want your DNA to be entered in to help with criminal cases, which... Absolutely. So a relative of the Golden State Killer, Joseph D'Angelo, did submit a sample, and that is how his identity came out. Well, the DNA from the case that we have finally ended up finding a match.
Shut up.
That match was to a man named Terry Dean Hawkins. Terry Dean Hawkins' DNA was in the system because back in 1977, he had been arrested on unrelated charges and was sentenced to the Orange County Jail. While that DNA wasn't going anywhere, they had it, but they had no reason to think it was anything. They just have it in their system.
Right.
So when a relative came forward, the relative's DNA matched with the DNA they had on file for Terry Dean Hawkins.
Matched?
Well, was the familial match.
Oh, okay.
The familial match to let him know,
Yeah.
Well, DNA that had been taken from Hawkins' tissue that had been collected during his autopsy.
His autopsy?
So he had died in jail in 1977.
Shut up!
1 year after her murder. Yep. So he was never charged for her murder. I literally put in here, the fucker had died in jail.
Wow.
Doesn't that make you so mad?
Wow. That is some bullshit.
I know.
Damn.
I know. So, not much is known about Hawkins. All I could find is that he was born on October 14th, 1953 in Alliance, Ohio. His family had then moved to California at some point because he attended Newport Harbor High School for his sophomore year in 1969, then went to Fountain Valley High School as a senior in 1971. He worked as a mechanic and lived in Garden Grove. He did have a criminal record before his time in jail, including drug and weapon-related charges, DUI, and indecent exposure. He had been charged in the 1975 killing of a 30-year-old woman in Laguna Hills, but he was never convicted, and the case was actually dismissed. Don't know how that happened. He was in jail on suspicion of disorderly conduct and drug-related offenses when he died in the jail on July 5th, 1977, before he was ever connected to Janet's murder.
Damn.
Yep. I really wanted it to be a whole,
yeah. Got him.
I looked for one that would be a got him, but every single person, because it took 30, 40 years for some DNA to come out. And there are a lot of these cases in California, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to find one where they're still alive. Every single person had died in jail at some point. And I was like, are you freaking kidding?
Wow.
So there was nothing where it was just that gotcha moment.
Yeah.
Well, Detective Attorney Todd Spitzer said, quote, "We know who killed Janet Stallcup because generations of law enforcement officers refused to give up on finding her killer." He also said, quote, "Advances in technology and DNA are breathing life back into cases that have grown cold over the years. Justice that had been evasive for decades is now at our fingertips, hidden away in DNA. Loved ones who have spent years wondering if they will ever have the peace of mind of knowing who killed their daughter, their sister, their friend, now know who is responsible. I want to thank the Garden Grove Police Department and the Science and Technology Unit at the Orange County District Attorney's Office for their never-ending dedication to the pursuit of justice."
And hopefully we have that same drive for all other cases.
Right.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Because if we can do it with this one, we can do it for others.
You can do it for anyone.
But what still remains unknown is what happened to Stallcup in her final hours, what happened in those 3 days from when she went missing to when she was presumed
he's fucking dead, so we can't figure it out.
Right. And also how her path and Hawkins' paths crossed.
God damn it.
I know.
So many questions.
I know. A 44-year-old cold case was finally solved thanks to DNA testing. And her family kind of said the same thing. They're like, we're really happy to know who did it,
Right.
but it's still not fully what we need.
Right. Like there's still so much that is unknown.
And her mother passed away before they found out who did it. I know. So her sister spoke a lot about all of this.
Right.
So a memorial fund has been set up for Janet at the Children's Hospital of Orange, where all donations will go towards the purchase of equipment used to treat children.
Love
what was her
that.
true passion.
I love that.
But yeah, DNA man. I just thought that was so fascinating.
It is.
A 44-year-old cold case.
My mom was had jury duty, and she ended up being on a jury.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Have we talked about this?
I don't know.
People tell us. But what happened?
Oh, you mean on here?
Yeah.
We definitely haven't talked about it on here.
Oh, I think I cut it out once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason why the case was going to trial was for the exact same reason.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That is just so cool.
Yeah.
And like, just think about what DNA testing is going to be like in like 15 years, 20 years from now.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's
Like,
kind of crazy.
My favorite thing is just like the old timey pictures where it's like there's a detective and there's blood and they're like, clean that up. That's messy. And then they like, I just think it's so funny. And I mean, like, dang, what are we going to have in 10, 15, 20 years?
I don't know.
But yeah, so that's Janet Stallcup.
Wow. That was
I know.
a little.
I know, because it's like a cold case. And I was like, they're going to think it's unsolved. But it's solved. But the guy died, which is so fucked up.
It is fucked up.
Like 1 year after.
Was he ever tied to the other cases you were talking about?
Mm-mm. No.
So those are still unsolved.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah, those are still unsolved. At least from what I was able to find, they're still
And
unsolved.
the second person? Damn.
I know. And like, I'll try to remember to post a picture of him, but the one picture that they have online of him, I hate it because he's like all smiling and happy, but he doesn't look like either of the two people. Like he has short blonde hair, just looks like your typical like Chad.
Chad Brad.
And so it's just weird.
Yeah, like,
so it also makes me wonder, like, who were these two guys?
yeah.
Like,
there are still, you might have said not a cold case, but there are a lot of shit
so
unsolved.
many questions.
So many questions.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Did not expect that one.
No.
That was good.
No, I didn't either.
That was good.
I was excited I was able to have like a cold case, but then it was solved.
Plot
because
twist.
DNA 44 years later.
Plot twist.
Wild.
Couple plot twists.
A couple plot twists.
Yeah.
Well, that's California.
Whew. Callie.
There's a lot in California. There were a lot. Like I literally typed in cold cases that have been solved. And like and there were like just like article after article of all these different ones. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But happy they were solved.
I am very happy they're solved. And hopefully we have this same drive for the cases that don't make it into the news.
Mm-hmm.
Because a human life is a human life.
Oh, a human life is a human life.
There's
Don't have to be white women to be important.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like, really, it's great. Like, I'm very happy they were able to solve
Sure.
it. Like, obviously,
Not,
every case, it's
not negating
right.
the importance of this, but it's also like,
If you can do this, put that same effort into all the
Right.
other people who have gone missing and all the other people who you have this DNA that you're just not testing.
right.
Like, you're not doing anything with it.
Right.
And then it's going to waste away in the evidence and it's going to get lost and then we're never going to figure it out.
Right. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like there is so much that could be done. And like you hear about these other cases, even, I know back then it was a way different time, but what's always heartbreaking for me is like when I read, cases from the same time and the amount of effort
Mm-hmm.
that goes in just for like investigating.
Right.
Versus, oh, well, we just assumed she was a runaway.
Right. Oh, I hate that.
And
And I hate it when the families are like, she wouldn't run away. She's not a
Right.
runaway. And they're like, no, she ran away.
it's like, how do you know? You
Like,
don't know that
If I were
person.
told you ran away, I'd be like, no, she didn't.
No.
I know she did not.
No. Well,
like-
I might have, but I would have told you.
you would tell me. I'd be like, I'm running away like BT dubs.
Gotta go.
But it's like one of those things. It's like the families and the friends know these
Right.
people way better than the cops do.
Right.
So how is there to say like, oh no, she ran away? It's like, no, you literally don't know.
And just because someone's past may not have been squeaky clean,
Mhm.
also doesn't mean that they should be written off as not a victim.
Right, unless they're a murderer. Then
Unless
we
they're a
don't like them.
murderer, then yeah, all bets are off. If you're a really shitty person,
All
then,
butts are off.
did I say butts?
Yeah.
Oh, all bets. All bets are off. Or butts. Well, either or.
Either one.
Yeah. Shitty people? No.
Yeah.
But
anyone else.
non-shitty people?
Right. We have a long way to go in this country.
Well, we'll keep standing on our soapboxes
Yes, we will.
until it happens.
Well, good case, Mackenzie.
Good case, Lauren.
Thank you. Review us, like and review us on all the things, please.
Even just, you don't even have to do that. Just tell us you like us.
Yes, we like we said, we really do love these messages,
They're
and
so
we
sweet.
freak out and we send them to each other and we tell everyone about it, and it's just really exciting.
And it's, yes, okay. Ego boost, of course.
Oh,
But
absolutely. But it also is like,
It's validating.
yes.
Like
Like we're not just talking to the wall. Like people are enjoying us and people are listening to us, and like it just makes me happy.
Yes, absolutely. So talk to us. We like talking to you.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So stay scary.
stay safe.